Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Facebook world. Thank you for joining me on this 7th episode of Live with Gregory Pappas. I am excited to have tonight one of the world's foremost experts in the travel industry. I'll talk to you about him in a little bit, but before I get to telling you all about Peter Vlitas, I want to talk to you all about something that's on everyone's mind, and that is Greece. Everyone has been watching the news. All of you who read this publication daily see the news that we publish about what's going on in Greece. Greece seems like they're coming out of this crisis. I don't want to say with flying colors because we are in a major pandemic, but they are doing very well in handling this crisis. And what the question that's on everyone's mind right now is, will I be able to go to Greece? I've seen it on Facebook. We posted numerous posts on our Facebook page and articles about tourism and travel. We've seen a lot of traction and a lot of activity by the Greek Minister of Tourism in trying to hammer out some agreements with other countries on whether it's safe to travel to Greece. I've seen this pop up daily on Facebook. I've seen people talking about how they have tickets and they don't know if they can go. And that's when I reached out to Peter. And I asked Peter if he would be willing to join us this evening. And we changed the time a little bit because we wanted to get to everybody in the evening hour when you're finished with your Zoom calls and your work. Peter Vlitas is the Senior Vice President of Airline Relations for Travel Leaders Group. Travel Leaders Group isn't just a travel agency. I mean, I've been to their offices and I've seen they've got hundreds and hundreds of people working there, managing tens of thousands of travel agents and offices and major conferences. As a member of Travel Leaders Group's leadership team, Peter focuses his area of expertise to provide benefits to all business divisions within the company, managing relationships with airlines to maximize the marketing and sales of their products to the organization's more than 52,000 travel advisors. Before assuming his current role, Peter previously served as Senior Vice President of Airline Sales and Marketing for Travel Leader Group's Pro Travel division for over 17 years. Throughout his tenure, he's been responsible for managing the many aspects of the company's airline programs, including industry relationships, airline contract negotiations, corporate travel. In his free time, he also serves on IATA's Global Travel Executive Committee and the Airline Reporting Corporation Travel Executive Council. Interestingly enough, Peter Vlitas is also on the advisory committee of American Airlines, Delta Airlines, United Airlines, and Air New Zealand. It's safe to say Peter Vlitas is the beginning and the end of all things flying to Greece this summer, other than maybe some rules that the ministers might set forth. But please join me. I see several hundred people online already. Please join me in welcoming Peter Vlitas to our Facebook Live chat. Peter, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. I was about to say, who's that person you're talking about? And of course, when I started in travel, I got to mention it because, Demi Brunzis, many people know that I started a little agency on 54th Street and 8th Avenue, Rex Travel. And that's where, you get the bug after leaving school. But the question today is, in this environment, and I'm one of those people, I can't wait till the summer comes so I can get up and go to Greece.
Yeah,
my children...
If I may interrupt you, you told me offline that because you're Spartan and it's in your DNA, you can't catch the coronavirus. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. And that's a great point because Greece successfully managed the crisis. What Greece did is as soon as the crisis hit, now you have to picture, here's Prime Minister Mitsotakis, and he's looking at his borders, and he's looking across at Italy, one of their biggest trade partners, right? Air, land on top, sea, and the coronavirus is out of control. I mean, they were devastated. My heart goes out to all my Italian friends and our partners in Italy. And he quickly shut the country down. there was those cases that came over on the Ryanair flight, and he quickly closed the country. And that's the benefit Greece has today. They moved real quick. Not only did they close the borders so people can't get into Greece, they shut the islands so people from Athens wouldn't go to the islands unless you're a Dimoti and living on the islands. You couldn't go to the islands. So they isolated not only the country, but then within the country, they isolated Athens and the regions. And of course, obviously, it's not in our DNA, although as Spartans, we always tell people, we have funny things, and I'm sure the Cretans say the same thing, and the Macedonians say the same thing. But there are many parts of Greece, and Laconia was one of them, that had 0 cases. So Greece did the right move. How does that pay off? Well, now when people are looking to go to Greece and you want a vacation, I'd venture to say, if somebody was saying, do I want to go to Greece, or do I want to go to Italy, or do I want to go to Spain? You're going to think long and hard, because 2 things. One, even if the curve has flattened, what are the mood of the people going to be in there? Who wants to go into such a devastating area? So Greece did an amazing job. To move forward on how progressive Greece was, and to give you some background, 98% of the world is closed. 98%. On a typical day, we might have 150,000 flights, and we're down to 20,000. In the United States, there's only 10,000 flights a day, and the majority of those flights are medical workers and cargo. Matter of fact, many airlines have taken seats out to put cargo in there. So here we are now, fast forward to the summer, and what many of the people on here want to hear about is it safe, and how will I go to Greece? So to answer that question, governments around the world had to face, do I risk the health of our citizens versus economic hardship, recession, depression? Greece originally said, we're closing the borders because we want our citizens to be safe. Now they're past that safe stage, and they have the economic stage, because we have to remember, 1 in 4 in Greece work in tourism, 25% of the workforce. It's 1/5 of the economy comes from tourism. So Greece is at the point now where they're saying, we really have this under control. We don't have spikes or new cases, and you're going to have 1 and 2. There's no way it's going to be eradicated. We've taken all the measures. Now, how do we save some of tourism? Make no mistake, they know that it's not going to be hundreds of thousands of tourists, but they want to try to save something. Of course, because they're in the EU, they can't open up their country till the 15th of June. The EU said any country after the 15th of June can open up. So June 15th will roll around. Out of all the countries in the EU, Greece was the only one who had a detailed plan that they brought to the European Commission and said, look, we need a standardized plan. Here is what Greece wrote, and Greece wanted the European Union to adopt it. The crux of the plan is, before you enter, whether it's the bubble of the European Union or in Greece, 72 hours prior, you must take a COVID test. So when you arrive to the border, and whether that border is the EU or that border is Greece, if you take the Emirates flight, which is going to start in July, and the American Airlines out of Chicago, so the Emirates out of Newark and American Airlines out of Chicago. And then Delta has the connections, but Delta is taking a wait-and-see approach because they want to fly to Greece. There's no way they want to not fly to Greece and give up that market that they've had for so many years. So you take the test. It's 1 day to get there, so you really have 48 hours. You go to the airport. So now let's talk on how to get there, right? You're in your house and you're safe. You can take a car. Somebody can drive you to the airport. You feel safe. You get to the airport. In the United States, we are facing the issue, and I've had conversations in the last week, Deputy Secretary of Commerce, the Department of Homeland, and the Department of Treasury, and we brought up the concerns that what is the standardization at the airport? I want to go to the airport. What are my touch points? How do I know who is going to take the temperature of every employee at the airport that it's safe to go there? So now you're walking through. Now I have luggage. What will happen with my luggage? Do I do a carry-on? Or Emirates in Dubai, when they did their test flights, they didn't allow carry-ons. They gave everybody a COVID test before they boarded the plane, and everything had to go underneath because they didn't want people overhead lifting baggage, right? We don't know what's going to happen. I get to the airport. I'm going to give somebody my bag. Will that bag be sprayed when it comes out at the other end in Greece because you don't know how many people are going to touch it? By the way, the answer to that is yes. Where do I check in? Now we're going to check in online, and I recommend most people touch the least amount. If you can go on the app and check in on the app and then just go in, we're waiting to see how TSA will do the social distancing to go through passport control. Once you get to the other side, limit your exposure and walking into the airport. You're going to go to the gate. The airlines are already putting in markers on the floor to have social distancing. Okay, that's fine. Once you get on the plane, that's when it changes a little bit. Now, in the recent surveys, 70% of those we've surveyed are very confident at the measures the airlines took. And if you haven't seen, I recommend you can go online. They're all fogging the planes. And as a matter of fact, a few of the airlines where they have those screens that they tell you if you're waitlisted, they're going to flip those to, they're going to put people with GoPro. So when they're inside fogging it, so you can see it as the consumer. So if I'm on the plane, I know and I have confidence that that plane is clean. It's been fogged. There's really nothing there. Flight attendants will have masks. All the travelers will have to wear a mask. So now think of that, right? You're going to get on a plane and you're going to wear a mask for 9 to 10 hours. So that's an important concept. No shorts, long pants. I recommend long pants. Put on your socks. Don't take your shoes off. You shouldn't take your shoes off on a plane anyway because you don't know where you're stepping. But so you're going to dress accordingly. You'll get on the plane. Bottled water they're going to give you. Food is going to be in a box. Now you hear this social distancing on the plane. But let's be honest, folks. The difference between you and the person next to you, if the seat is empty, is 19 inches. Does anybody on this joining us today feel that 19 inches is a safe distance? It's not. The airlines are saying that because they want to make you feel comfortable. But the reality is, if I reduce my seats on the plane to leave this social distancing, it takes a plane that instead of being 100% full to 65% full. Who's going to pay for those empty seats? You are. So right now, fares are fairly inexpensive. But let's be honest, there's a chance that you're going to get on the plane. Right now, if there's not a lot of seats, you're going to have an empty seat next to you. But you're going to get on a plane, and you might have someone sit next to you. But that's okay, because everyone on that plane that's going to Greece has to be certified that they're COVID-free with a test. So the odds that the person next to you is going to get you sick are very, very slim. So now the next issue is, okay, you're on the plane, you sit, you try to sleep the 10 hours like most of us do. The bathroom, are you going to be comfortable enough to go to the bathroom? Most people are not. So therefore, make your plans. Don't drink before you get on the plane. And, it's a horrible thing, but everybody, I took a flight right before they shut everything down. I took one of the last flights, Emirates, into Athens. And the flight attendant was saying, look, Peter, and I happen to have known her. And I go, what? She goes, look, the passengers are cleaning the plane. Literally, Greg, I turned around and everyone had Purell, the wipes. They were wiping down the seat, the table. Labe. The plane was so clean. This now is the fogging. But people, make no mistake, they're not. The flight attendant's not going to clean the bathroom. They're going to go in and then go to the for the next customer. And even when you look at that, right, there is really no way of doing anything. But you have to have comfort that the overall plane is clean. The food has always been safe on a plane. I don't think I would challenge anybody here who would show me any article in all these years that there was something bad happen on the food. Because naturally, the way food is prepared for a plane is all in isolation. And there's a timing from the time they make it to get it on the plane and it's secured. I'm not worried about that. But as a traveler, and I'm with my children, we're going to sit in our seats. We're going to probably bring our own food. And please, no mitzithra because it smells on the plane. right? We'll sit there for 10 hours. When we arrive in Greece, and by the way, you're going to have a mask, right? So, you know, the blue masks are fine, the cloth mask, any mask that you want that's comfortable. I recommend you actually, you know, either make one or buy one that's going to sit on your face as you move around and all that. Then when you arrive in Greece, wash your hands, Purell your hands. And then wherever you go to the house, whatever, you're going to take off your clothes, you're going to wash them, and you're in a safe bubble. So you were in a bubble in your house. You were in a bubble in an airport. You're in a bubble in a plane. Now you're in a bubble in Greece. And that's what Greece is trying to create, this bubble. And what does that mean? We're a country that had low cases of COVID-19. So now everybody who's coming in is COVID-free. We want to maintain that bubble. Greece is then going to make arrangements with other countries who are in that bubble. Cyprus is in that bubble. Israel was in that bubble. Matter of fact, if you saw, I don't know if you did, but the video that the Ministry of Defense did, they were spot on. They said, this is most dangerous for our senior citizens. Protect the senior citizens. They didn't shut everything down. They protected their senior citizens, which was smart. So Greece will have these arrangements, just like Germany's doing with Austria, just like New Zealand, which has no cases. They haven't had deaths for a few days, with Australia, right? They're going to create these bubbles. So for us, I want to go to Greece. I want to go down to Sparti. I want to see my cousins. I want to go swimming, right? I want to show everybody all the weight I lost. So, you know, you want to go down there. So I'm in these bubbles, and I want to be sure that the Greek government has done the right thing. There won't be a lot of tourists in Greece because it's going to be hard to get to because of flights and economics. But you're going to see, yeah.
I think that this information is great. I'm getting some great comments on here, by the way. People are thanking you for the insight. But you're talking about these bubbles. The vast majority of our audience is here in North America, the United States, Canada. I think the question is, are we allowed to enter Greece right now with an American passport, with a Canadian passport?
Right. So unless you're on the not enter list like you are, Greg, but I spoke to the Prime Minister, so don't worry, they'll let you in. Some with Anna Visi is going to vouch for you or something like that. But yes, so the European Union is closed. Greece is part of the European Union. On the 15th of June, the European Union opens up. Greece is already in negotiation with countries and in the United States to expect tourists 1st of July. So the flights that are American and Emirates and connections. So on the 1st of July, you'll be able to go you go 2 days earlier, right? You'll go get your COVID test. You go to the airport, you get on a plane, and you go to Greece. Greece is prepared.
As an American traveler, as a U.S. citizen.
Yes, as a U.S. citizen. Actually, on July 1, any citizen of any of the world who can enter a Schengen country, enter the EU, may go to Greece. Anyone. You can be from anywhere. You can be a Canadian can go, Mexican can go. Anyone who doesn't obviously need a visa, but if you have visa-free travel, yes. So Americans, United States citizens, will be able to leave and go to Greece on July 1, as long as they have the medical paper. They're going to need that health certificate. And between now and then, we'll have clarity as will they take, like here in New York, you know, City Med is doing this. You get it, you know, 1 day, 2 days, and it's free. You can get tested. It doesn't cost you anything. So Greece will put out what standard is it going to be. So is it as simple as here is the full report I have from the doctor, from the hospital, because everything now is electronic, and they'll accept that. So on July 1, when you have the first flights going, the first nonstop flights, Chicago and Newark, okay, people will go land in Greece, and they'll show their passport and the certificates. Because remember, they won't be able to leave the United States unless they have a certificate. So when you go check in at the airport, the airline's going to ask you, just like if you need a visa to go to certain destinations, you know, the airline checks for the visa. This will exactly what's going to happen. You're going to go to the airport. You're going to show your passport that you have a passport to leave the United States and enter a foreign country. And then they're going to say, could I see your medical certificate, or whatever they're going to call it, right? It'll be some word. Then once you arrive in Greece, kalos irthes, it's go do your thing. Now, traveling inside Greece, Aegean Airlines, no social distancing. They will fill every seat because it's limited seating on, so no one can expect that there'll be no empty seats. Only packaged snacks, and that's only if a flight is, 4 hours. So who cares? You go to the islands, it's 50 minutes. You'll get on and you'll get off. Now, when you leave Greece, there's no testing. Thank you for coming. Go back home. There's absolutely no testing. So you enter and then you leave Greece as you normally leave. Now, Greece has made some changes for the safety. There's all these new hygiene rules that hotels will have to follow for those who are going to go stay in a hotel. There's no buffets, which in all honesty, if you go to Greece to eat a buffet, sorry, folks, I don't want to offend anyone, but you know what? Greece has some of the greatest foods in the world, and you don't need a buffet. You can go have a souvlaki, gyro, patata, French fries. So really, it's not a big loss.
We're going to get all our weight back here.
Yeah, I wish. So, and now here's the other thing. Every region is, and all the big properties will all have contracted with a doctor. There'll be a doctor everywhere. And then Greece has secured quarantine hotels. They're already there. The Greek government has hotels. They will not open to the public, and they will just be there for tourism. So in the event that somebody is sick, they're going to take that sick person, take them to the quarantine hotel, and then from there, depending. Now, you got to remember, if you look at the statistics, 85% of the people who had the coronavirus, it was nothing more than a common cold. So, yes, I know here in the States we see these big numbers, right? But they don't tell you the hundreds and thousands that we cure. And I don't want to belittle, and my heart goes out to those who lost, and the Greek community, as you know, Greg, here in New York, we lost quite a few prominent and people in the Homogenia. So it's a horrible thing. But Greece has created this bubble. So as an American, you can get on a plane, you can connect because some airlines will connect you. Matter of fact, right now, the best way to go to Greece, if you had to, for those who had to, we were sending them on Qatar through Doha because they had a strategy of bringing people all over the world, and they were allowing them to connect through Doha. So as an American, you can go to Greece.
Go to Doha around the other side of the world, and then
go back up to Greece. Yes.
So how long of a flight is that?
Oh, well, that'll take you about 18, 19 hours. But we had people. So we had people over the last few months that had to go back. They had to. They had no choice. So when everything closes, and they were Greek nationals, which are allowed to go back, all the airlines, 98%. So when you look at that 2 or 3% that were flying, Qatar was one of them, and people had to go home. I mean, you got stuck here and you had to go home. So now those who will go to Greece will have a great time. Why? Now let's set the stage. It won't be crowded. Mm-hmm. You'll be able to walk around. Okay. Hotels and everything are at a value. They're fairly inexpensive right now. I don't know, if you're into the nightlife, and I don't know what that scene will be. And we don't know yet on the rules and how that will be allowed. But if you want to see a beautiful country, if you want to see the rest of Greece, which it's now's the best opportunity, right? Great beaches. It won't be crowded. So those who will go will really have a good experience because Greece has done it right. Out of all the countries, they did it right. They closed it. And you know what? Prime Minister Mitsotakis is not going to risk the health of his country. Now, this is a personal decision that everybody must make. This is your decision. Here are the facts. Whether you're in the United States or in Canada, in the first week of July, Air Canada will start flying nonstop from Toronto to Athens. You have to make the decision. Do I want to go to Greece? What is my personal health? Do I have underlying conditions? And am I in good shape? Right? So those are your personal decisions. Then when I go to Greece, lay it out. If you think you're going to go to Greece and you want to go to Mykonos and have that action where you're 2 inches with the chair next to you and that party scene, and for that you'll pay 150 euros. No, this isn't the year. But if you want to go and see a beautiful Greece where you're going to go at the beach and people are not going to be on top of you, yeah, that's a good opportunity. If you want to go up north, it's a good opportunity. If you want to go visit other parts of Crete, not only Iraklio, but go, to the other side, or down in the Peloponnese in the Costa Navarino resort, Kalamata, all those areas, it's going to be a great time to go.
Peter, I have a lot of specific questions
Sure.
in your area of expertise. I'd like to talk a little bit about airlines. You've already mentioned Air Canada. So Air Canada will be starting a nonstop?
Yes, in the beginning of July. And Transat will too, but I don't know the exact date, but they're going to fly. Look,
and then we've already seen announcements of United canceling for the whole season. They're nonstop. What else? What are the other options for people?
So Delta right now, Delta wants to put the nonstop, but right now Delta's offering through Paris and Amsterdam. But remember, the majority of the airlines' fleets are sitting at the airport. They're just there, right? They want to see what's going to happen, right? What's going to happen with demand. No one expected all this to go that late into July. We were planning that right now in May, we'd start selling tickets to get people to start going in June and July. So we're kind of pushing it back right now. So you have Delta will be able to get you there. Air France will be able to get you there. Alitalia. You will see in July a number of flights to get people. And as there is demand, as people are booking, trust me, I spoke to Delta only about 2 hours ago, and they're actually one of the guests listening in on this call. Nothing would make them more happy than to see the demand and put one of their planes on, which they have, to go nonstop to Athens. So, and the flip side is buy a ticket, right? Because the policies are so flexible that if you don't go, right, either if the flight cancels, you can get a full refund. If the flight goes and you don't go, you get a credit. You could use it up to 2 years.
That's a lot of the other questions people are asking. What if I buy a ticket and things change? What if I already have a ticket and I want to cancel it? Is that a pretty much across the board?
Yeah.
Have all airlines loosened their restrictions?
Well, in a variation of the same rule, right? It depends on the carrier. The Department of Transportation put out a ruling and reminded all the carriers that if a customer bought an airline ticket and the flight got canceled, you're due 100% refund. If you purchase a ticket and don't want to go, then you have a credit. But your credit now is good for 2 years. So what we recommend first, and folks, this isn't a commercial to use a travel agent, right? Our company, we have 50,000 travel agents. But the truth of the matter is that you need to use a travel agent in this crisis. You're not going to pay more. You're not. What the travel agent, though, is going to give you these right options, and they're going to say, okay, this flight is going to go, that's not going to go. And if it changes, they're going to call you up and say, here's another option. They're going to tell you the best option. If the rules change, they're going to tell you what the rules are. If you're going to go from an island to another island, they're going to help you navigate. Because right now, it's not a travel agent, go up, say, nice to cut a ticket, let me go. These are now, think of them as trip coordinators because it's that complex. You have an American passport, I have a non-American passport. I did an antibody test. Is that good as the COVID test? Yeah, it is. But so when does the 72-hour clock start? Well, it's 72 hours prior to arrival. So if I'm arriving at 11 o'clock in the morning where the nonstops used to, or if you take the flight from Chicago, which is afternoon, or Etihad, which is later in the afternoon, you have to count back 72 hours. How specific will the countries be on all that kind of stuff? So it's very important that, if you want to do it yourself, great. But if something goes wrong, who are you going to call? You need somebody to be able to call. So, and I don't, use whoever you want. I don't care. But I'm just saying is that you're doing a few things. One, you're helping an industry that has been devastated. The travel industry is down 98%. So picture your business or wherever you work if you're down 98%. The government has helped. The government has stepped in with the airlines. The airlines have borrowed $25 billion. But if you're going to travel, first, if you buy an airline ticket and you don't want to go, wait till the last minute to cancel, because if they cancel their flight, you get a refund. If they don't, then you have a credit for 2 years. Now, here's the other thing. The credit for 2 years, your travel agent will put it in the computer system and track it for you. And that credit is a financial credit. It's not a credit to say you have 2 years to go to Greece. So if you buy a ticket and this price is out there like $550 for the summer, now you have a $550 gift certificate. Let's say if you bought it on Delta,
that you can use for any other airline. For
any other destination or any airline within their family, because it's Delta, Air France, KLM is in one family, United, Lufthansa, and those guys. But United made the decision because they're hunkering down because of COVID and their lift and the way they work. It just didn't pay for them. However, every airline will change like that. Now, if tomorrow we see the news that there's a treatment like a Z-Pack for 5 days, or Oxford in the UK, which says that they're on their second wave of trials, Johnson, if all of a sudden someone says there's a cure, the minute you hear that, you better buy your tickets real quick, because I guarantee you they will double by that afternoon, because there's pent-up demands. In our surveys, which is when we took our survey last month on how many people want to travel internationally, it was at 14%.
Wow.
We now have moved up to 27%. Good. So there's 27% of those we surveyed, and these are people that travel, right? 27% will say that on July they're going to travel. So right now, I'm telling people, if you're thinking of going to Greece, buy your ticket. It's an investment. You can't go wrong, and you won't lose your penny. If you want to go to Greece, plan it out so you know where you're going. Rest assured that it might be a little different. You won't see that action that you might be looking for, but you'll see a beautiful country. You'll see a safe country, a country that's reopened. And trust me, the Greek government is not going to go all the way to risk what they had won. They're not. At the first sign of problem, they're going to attack it and give you a good experience to go to Greece.
Peter, I want to clarify something here. I've got a couple people on making comments. The restrictions and the refund policies that you're talking about were for American U.S. Airlines, because I'm seeing here some comments that Olympic Air is not giving vouchers to be used for the next 2 years. Stacy here is telling us that her trip to Mexico in April was canceled by Air Transat, which I believe is a Canadian company,
right,
that did not get a full refund. She just got a 2-year credit. So what you said earlier was specifically for U.S. Airlines.
That's correct.
Department of Transportation rules.
That's the Department of Transportation rule. And by the way, for those who actually, if you're in the United States, right, it does cover you. Now, every airline has different policies. Air Transat, which is kind of a charter carrier, public charter, operates under different rules. Olympic, which is really a Aegean Airlines, yes, they're just offering a credit on those short-haul flights. That is 100% correct. Originally, when the crisis happened, Lufthansa tried to do the same thing with the credit, and then there was a big backlash, and they changed. Air France did the same thing, that you needed to. They were going to refund you the money, but the travel agent couldn't do it. You had to go through the system, and it's calmed down. Now, why did that happen, folks? $35 billion is what's out there to be refunded. $35 billion. And honestly, the airlines don't have the money. It's really as simple as that. They don't have the money. However, all these people, everyone who said, that you had these issues, right? If you had used the travel advisor, they can navigate this, right? So yes, I see some questions, and I know there's people from Canada. I don't know where in Canada you can get tested in 72 hours. But and Stacey, that brings up a really good point, is that because there's no coordination among governments, everyone had to do what they think is best. everything is not going to be for everyone. I would hope that as all these new tests come out, that the Canadian government and other governments will be able to give that to their people, because the more you test, the better it is, right? Because the more people you test on top, the number of those who passed away becomes smaller and smaller and becomes under 1%. So I don't know, you'd have to ask, and that's a great question. But remember, these are times that we never experienced. So we don't know what's going to change. And by the way, next week, I can tell you that the EU got mad. They got into a fight, and the EU says, I'm not opening up on the June 15th. You don't know. Look, has anybody...
knowing the Europeans.
Right. Well, the Canadian government, they just agreed with the American government to keep the borders closed till like the 21st of June. The Canadians, again, it's restricted entry into Canada. The United States has not even said when they're going to open up the United States for people to come in, and the border with Mexico.
I wanted to ask you about that because I know that you have consulted with some of the highest people in the U.S. government. You've spoken with people at the Department of Transportation, at Homeland Security, which manages TSA. Is our government preparing to open anytime soon? I mean, what do you know about this from your conversations?
It's sad to say that the government's first priority was the economy, right? The United States government, I should preface, the United States government was the economy, $3 trillion. And like all the other economies in the world, right? In the last week or two, the U.S. government has not yet put together a cohesive plan on how to open the country. First of all, if anybody's following the news here in the United States, every state is doing their own thing, right? Wisconsin, the judge said you don't have to have social distancing and the bars were full. Well, let's see what happens in 14 days. Fortunately, New York has a good governor and a good mayor to some extent, and they're following through. But we have shut down the economy. So the FAA is responsible out of all the government agencies right now. It's the FAA who's going to take the lead on how to open the United States to inbound, right? Homeland Security will be responsible for the airports and what it is. There's also a legal issue in the United States, the liability issue. So right now, if I have employees at home and I tell them they have to go to work, and if they go to work and they get sick, will I be sued? So yesterday, the United States Congress and Senate started debating the liability issue on how they will absolve certain businesses in order to get things going as far as that. So, but I can tell you this. Unfortunately, when I asked straight out to the Department of Transportation, can you share with us the timeline on when we can anticipate the U.S. government sending guidance on what we're going to do, they just said no, which then indicates that the intergovernmental agencies are not prepared to even discuss a timeline.
So Peter, we're getting a lot more complicated here because I can leave on July 1st, but if our government doesn't have their you-know-what together in creating a plan for allowing inbound traffic to start coming back in again, will American citizens be able to fly to Greece, considering Greece allows us to? What happens on the return 2, 3, 4 weeks?
No, you can come in. American citizens are not barred. So if you look at when the United States put the rules in and closed the borders, American citizens or anybody who is a resident, a citizen, anybody who's allowed now can come in. Where that comes into play on what they're doing is, one, it's securing the bubble at the airport. So when you want to leave, you feel comfortable going to the airport, right? You want everyone entering an airport to be screened for temperature. You want everything to be fogged and clean. You want to be able to have social distancing, and somebody has to be responsible for that, right? So, and then as far as coming back, the U.S. government, any American citizen, anybody who has the right to enter the United States will absolutely. But here's what happens. If we can't get inbound in this bubble theory, so let's say Greece now is pretty much, the majority of the people, it's COVID-free. It's very small, the amount of people who are sick, right? And I'm in Greece. I'm a Greek national. I take my COVID test. I want to come to the United States. I can't. So from an airline perspective, right, if we want to generate traffic, the airlines are going to take planes to Greece full or half full, and they're going to come back empty. You need back traffic. You need a minimum of 15% at least back traffic coming in from Greece in order to make that flight viable. Now, carriers are willing to take the hit because they have the planes. Fuel is fairly inexpensive. They got to get their pilots flying. People are forgetting all these little things. You have a pilot sitting around. That pilot, once you want to start flying, he's not going to be able to say, here's the key, turn on the engine, and take the plane for a spin. You kidding me? It doesn't work that way. So the complexities of our government is that they're not even thinking about this plan. Now, big travel management companies like ours, combined with GBT, American Express Global Business Travel, BCD, all the big companies, we're now pressuring the United States government to say, where's the plan? Who's talking about this plan? Because not only do we need traffic to leave the United States, but tourism accounts for $115 billion to the United States. It's
Peter, the thousands of employees, and I have been in the past 40 minutes and not even talking to you about the impact this has had on you, your family, the hundreds of people that work with you. I mean, these people are all out of a job. I mean, you mentioned the pilots, there's travel agents, there's flight attendants, there's millions.
I mean, the list is, look, the numbers are staggering. When you look at 1 in 10 jobs in the United States have to do with travel and tourism, 1 in 10, right? We have 33 million people unemployed. It's the number one export of the United States is tourism to come inbound. So that's an export. We tell them to come here. It's number one. For those of you who are in Manhattan, when's the last time you walk in Midtown and it's totally shuttered? All those restaurants, that tourism, all the bars, the theater. So it's massive. And there's a great question here that says, if non-U.S. citizens are allowed to enter, will European airlines fly here? Yeah, they will, because the European carriers have people here they want to take back and forth. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to put one flight. Right now, London Heathrow, which is one of the top destinations in the world, American Airlines has 2 flights into Heathrow. And there, we were all taken aback a little when the Prime Minister said, if you come to the UK, you're going to be quarantined for 14 days. So who's going to go to London on business if you have to be quarantined for 14 days? With the exception, though, if you come in from France, you're not quarantined. So if you have to go to London, June 15th, when Europe opens up, you're going to fly to France and then go to, it's ridiculous. There's no standardization. Air New Zealand has stopped flying to the United States. We don't expect them to come back till May because they've shut down their country. New Zealand will only deal with the Australian and some of the islands nearby, and then that's it. They're hunkered down.
Actually saw some news last week that we published on the Pappas Post about the Greek Prime Minister having a series of calls with a handful of countries to discuss this very issue. I think the Prime Ministers of New Zealand and Australia and Israel and a few others were on the call too. And when the news hit that the Australians were going to be allowed to enter Greece, I think there was a lot of joy. But then I think the Prime Minister came out and pretty much nixed the idea of Australians in the country, of international travel in order to keep his country safe. So I think this is going to be a hit to a lot of people who were anticipating traveling to Greece this summer. I personally was invited to 4 weddings this summer that were supposed to take place on the islands, family gatherings. We've got a lot of questions coming in on the comments. And, Stacey, you bring up an interesting point about being trapped in Greece if you get stuck. Peter's a travel expert here. He's not a medical expert, and we don't know much about health insurance and whether or not the hospital on the island that you're visiting even has a ventilator. These are great questions, but these aren't, if you're feeling nervous about leaving a city like Toronto that has so many hospitals and ending up on a tiny island with no hospital, I personally wouldn't leave if that's your number one concern. I would stay safe where you are. because the last thing you want to do is travel to a country where, and let's face it, there aren't very many hospitals on the islands. It's pretty shocking. On the islands that I visit, I go to Mykonos every year, and we have a very small medical center on the island. Not a lot of equipment. It's a great place, great island, but if something serious happens, they've got to life flight you on a helicopter to another hospital. So these are very good questions. Jesse, you're asking Peter, what do you forecast pricing will look like on airline tickets? I think he's already touched on that earlier on this interview. Prices are pretty good right now, Peter?
Yes, they're fantastic. Prices are the lowest that they'll ever be. I mean, they're really very good. I did notice I was spot checking some of the Air Canada pricing, and I thought, they tend to be a little high up there. But the prices out of the United States are fairly inexpensive. I mean, there are fares out there, 500 and change to go round trip. Again, you got to remember one thing, and to your answer to Stacy was great. This is a different year. It's a different experience. It's not for everyone. It's really not. If people have concerns, you don't want to spend your money to go on a vacation if you're worried. Okay. And Greg is right. In Greece and the islands, if something happens, you're helicoptered to somewhere else. Now, does Athens have ventilators? Absolutely. How does insurance work? I have no clue. There's medevac insurance people can purchase, but in this scenario, medevac is not going to help you, because if you have problems breathing, you want service. So I need everybody to understand, it's a personal decision this year. It's not a marketing. You're not going to look at some brochure and say, I want to go to Greece. You have to be prepared. You have to say that, you know what, I'm going to go to Greece. This is where I'm going to stay. I'm pretty healthy. I have no underlying health conditions. And only you can make that decision, because I will tell you this, don't go if you're not comfortable going. Because if you're going to go there and second guess yourself, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to call the airline, and you're going to want to get on a plane and come home. And many people do that. And they're going to let you, the airlines. You can make changes now. They don't care. But don't. You have to, look, I'm from the southern part. We have a home. My family, it's already planned out in my head. I get out. I hop in a car. In the car, there'll be waiting some souvlaki and gyro, right? With bottles of water, 3-hour drive down to Yifio. My house will be stocked with my cousins right there, and I'm good to go. But this is a personal decision. All I can say is this, that there is no 14-day isolation when arriving in Greece. Somebody wrote that. There's no reason for that, because in order to get into Greece, you have to have the certificate that you're COVID-free. So you're going to arrive, and the thing is a bubble. Greece wants to create this bubble, and then they only want to let other people from other countries in, right, that come in with these rules, that I'm COVID-free and I can come in. Now, in the EU, because it's the EU, if they make arrangements with other countries, they have to be assured that that other country is in that bubble, and they're still going to make them come in with some sort of certificate. There'll be no exceptions, because you know what? It's a matter of life or death, and Greece is not going to risk it. So my advice is, if you're thinking of going, use a travel agent. If you want to do it on your own, that's okay. I can respect that. Fares are fairly expensive. Buy a ticket, because if you don't go, you'll get a refund. If the flight cancels, you get your money back. And then look at where you want to go. Greece, Greece is more than Santorini, Mykonos, and Crete, right? There's many options. There's many places.
Those are fighting words, Mr. Vlitas. Those are fighting words.
Actually, we love Crete, so look, there is Karpathos, there's Chios, there's Naxos, Paros. There's up north in Macedonia. There's so many gorgeous places, in the Peloponnese, that they have all these little nice, beautiful places that doesn't have a lot of people, and go and have a good time. Really?
Will it be easy to travel? Someone's asking here, Evangelia's asking about information about the ferry boats travel between Athens and the islands. Has that resumed? Will it resume?
It will resume, and there'll be no problem, because, again, once the bubble's created, Greece's intention is to allow you to move freely within the country. So you'll have no issue.
This
Now,
has been.
keep in mind, I'm sorry, but keep in mind that yes, Nikki, we love Crete. You gotta keep in mind that you want to make sure you plan this. Greece is a little different this year. Many people go and wing it, right? I don't recommend winging it. I recommend that, getting a ferry ticket is really easy. Just book it, right? That's the only thing. I would not recommend winging it. Just have a plan, because not everything's going to be open. Your favorite hotel might not be open. And by the way, a hotel could be open today, could tell you that it's going to be open. And I have to be honest and transparent, is that a number of hotels are going to be open to see if they get bookings. But if they don't get bookings, they're going to close. They're not going to open up, because they're not going to risk spending more money for somebody who's not going to come.
So we don't have a lot of time left. This has been a very spirited hour, but a question just popped in my mind. So I'm required to take a test 72 hours before I leave here. What happens when I come back? Is the United States going to require me to have a test?
No. Right now, first of all, you need to have a test 72 hours before arrival. Be very careful.
It's Greece.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Right. So you got to, whenever you arrive, you count back 72 hours, right? Because if you do it the other way around, 10, 11 hours to fly. Right now, there is, other than a temperature check, and we've talked to hundreds of people who've come back into the United States, and they've done absolutely nothing. I mean, there's not much happening, right? But right now, there is none. There's no requirement. If you're a U.S. citizen, you come back. If you're sick, obviously, they're going to tell you to go quarantine yourself in your house for 14 days. But there's absolutely no, other than you have to land to the airports that are designated airports, which are all the major airports. It doesn't really matter, right? And for this case, it doesn't matter. No. Now, will the government put something between now and then? They might. What can they do? Well, the new instant tests are the ones that they use in the Middle East, which are kind of instant within a minute or two. But you can imagine the backlog. And if people remember the day that the U.S. government put into people into certain airports, and you had hundreds of people behind it. So honestly, I don't anticipate them doing anything other than a thermal scan on a temperature. Because again, you have to remember one thing. You're in a secure place. Everybody who's going to Greece is COVID-free, and there's really very, very, very few cases, and there were no cases on the island. There was 0 cases. But again, I want to caution that before you leave, and we have plenty of time. It's May. No one will be leaving till July. 1st of July. So by then, the U.S. government should have some sort of direction, some guidance. We'll see further guidance from the EU. We'll actually see what is happening in Greece. Greece will put out more details on which countries can enter, who can't enter, and then it's a personal decision. But again, if you've locked in a cheap price, you're good to go. If you don't want to go because you feel you're not comfortable going, okay, if the flight cancels, you get a refund. If the flight doesn't cancel, you go. You got 2 years to use it.
Peter, a lot of people want us to have you back on my show in a couple of weeks so that we can reassess the situation. They've really, really enjoyed this conversation. My buddy Petros in Astoria is going to make some souvlakia because all this souvlaki talk has him hungry. I also want to give a shout out to all of the people in Brooklyn that are watching. You are the president of your parish council. It's Holy Cross, right?
No. No, I'm a former president, and I was the former president of the Cathedral Brooklyn St. Constantine in Holland.
Right. To the St.
That's okay. That's Father Vangoris, who used to run Ionian Village. That's he's our priest over there. And yes, growing up, I was at Holy Cross too. I have good friends there. Usually when July and August comes around, all the Greeks in Brooklyn just scatter. I mean, you can see many of, if you go, especially like Kimesis, a neighboring community, if you go to Chios, I think half of Kimesis is over there. And then St. Connie's and Holy Cross has people, Cyprius, Laconis, and that. But yeah, and I'm very involved in our school. I have to give a shout out to our aphantus parochial school, which went to total, class via the Zoom. And a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, we put a Holy Cosped de Martiu program. The kids performed in their house. It was amazing. And then the teacher stitched it together and did a 30-minute program. I mean, it really is amazing to see things like that. So, but I want to thank, look, a lot of people, I'm reading these questions, right? And I get a kick out of, we're such Greeks where we're writing where we're from. And I see, all the parts of Greece is there, and Kalamata, I see Thiva, we have a good friend from there, and all these other places. So it's pretty cool, right? But I just want to leave everybody one thing. If you can go to Greece and you feel comfortable going, and it's a personal decision, you will have a good time. You really will. You'll go to the beach. You'll have a good time. It won't be crowded. Look, Greeks use common sense. They did not get to having one of the lowest results in the world by being stupid. They didn't. They naturally wash their hands. They don't touch their face. I mean, the food is simple. And souvlaki, I keep saying souvlaki, but you know what? It's true. It's barbecue food. It's nothing elaborate, right? The yayadas were always clean. So you know what? If you can get there, and one thing, I'll be happy to come back on. Will the rules change? Probably. I know what won't change. July 1 is when Greece is going to open their doors to expect it. June 15th, the EU is going to let each country do what they want. I spoke to the minister, Minister Theo Harris, who sends his regard, Greg. He actually, follows the Pappas post. He likes some of the stuff you put on there. And he's prepared. He's talking with the U.S. government. He's talking with the ambassador. And actually, the reason he's talking to them is what you said, Greg, is that he wants to make sure that when all these people come to Greece and they go back, that they'll be able to go back.
Peter, Maria in San Francisco, California is asking, is the health certificate a requirement of Greece, or will it be required by all airlines leaving the U.S., regardless of where they are going? It's a Greek requirement or an EU requirement.
Right. No. Right. Greece wanted the health certificate to become an EU requirement. The EU is still debating on what they're going to do, but Greece can't afford not to move forward. Greece is saying, hey, I'm a safe country. I don't have a major issue, right? There are many other diseases that will kill you before this will, when you look at the population of 11 million. So Greece, that's Greece's standard. Greece sent the paper to the EU and said, this is what we should do. Greece was hoping that the EU would take it and say, okay, this is what we will do. But they're not prepared. The EU wants to start with migrant workers, et cetera, et cetera. But Greece has to look out for its best interest, and that's the economy of the country, right? So that requirement today, as we're talking on this show, is if you want to go to Greece 72 hours before you arrive to their borders, you must have this. Do I think other countries will adopt this? Absolutely. I do, because it's probably the safest and the best thing to do. That's 72 hours prior. And in the United States, and I don't know the issue in California, but here in New York now, it's fairly simple to get a test. The government, U.S. government is paying for it. I assume it's there. But right now, it's a Greek requirement. The EU has yet to put out any specifics. We do anticipate that they may. But then look at the flip side. The UK, which is no longer part of the EU, they could have said that, and they didn't. They said, if you want to come to the UK, I'm going to quarantine you for 14 days, which really means we don't want you here. I mean, let's be honest. You're not going to go there for business. You're not going to go there for a tourist. What are you going to do? 14 days sit in your hotel room? So it's going to change. Now, tomorrow, the EU might come out with a different statement that this is such a fluid situation. To give you an idea, and I saw the questions on the tickets and the refunds, we pegged that this crisis began in our business on February 17th. As of yesterday, we've had over 700 rule changes on issuing airline tickets. 700.
Wow.
And even now, today, Qatar is telling you, if you bought a ticket on Qatar, if you don't want the refund, they'll give you a credit plus 10%. That's another thing airlines, some of them are doing. Or they'll give you extra frequent flyer points. Anything not to give you back your money. But folks, if you can get the cash, trust me, take the cash.
Take the cash. And that's great advice to end our show. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been honored to have Peter Vlitas on our show, the world's foremost airline expert, Senior Vice President of Travel Leaders in New York City. Peter, thank you for your time. I do have a commitment to have you back in a couple of weeks so we can reassess the situation and talk again about Greece. Facebook world, thank you all for watching. This has been the 7th episode of Live with Gregory Pappas. It's something very exciting for me to be able to connect with all of you, to be able to bring experts, and yes, to be able to learn how to cook too, because I have had some fun cooking with you. This coming Sunday, I'll be cooking again. I want to give you all a reminder and give a shout out to the several hundred people that support us every month. We have a support program. I'm going to publish the link right now. I hope you will decide to pitch in $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you think the value of our content is. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money to do what we do and to keep you connected and to publish our articles. We're reaching about 400,000 or 500,000 people every single month with our content in about 125 countries around the world. Yes, our primary audience is in the United States and Canada, but we've got tens of thousands of readers in the United Kingdom, in Australia, and all over the world. So I really appreciate those who are supporting right now. I've shared the link in the comments. Thank you all for watching. See you on Sunday, 3 o'clock. We're going to be cooking a very fancy version of Briam. And I promise you, I will have Peter Vlitas back on the show. Thank you, Peter. Thank you,
everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye. You too.